I think a lot of people hit midlife and they realize that the life they built isn't the one they wanted or they'd planned for. But what I don't hear talked about much is what happens when you realize you never fit into that life at all. That was me. And it took until I was 59 years old for everything to finally break and then start to open up. Hi, I'm Diane Hatz, and welcome to A Writer's Life. This is a space where I talk about rebuilding in midlife and beyond, creativity, and what it looks like to start over when the life you were living isn't what you really wanted. Today, I'm talking about what happens when you realize that you never really fit into the life you'd built for yourself. For me, I sort of knew I didn't fit in for most of my life, but denial is a powerful thing. And I tried to fit in. I really tried. When I worked in the music industry, I went to thousands of shows all the time, kept up on the trends, listened to music all the time. But when I ended up working at a corporate record company, it was the most uncreative thing I'd ever experienced. One day, and I'm not joking, one day I yelled down the hall that we could be selling tampons and nobody would notice the difference. And I was met with silence. To me, it was boring. The same old marketing tactics used over and over. When I suggested something new to an executive about having fans help market bands, I was told it wouldn't work. When I asked why, I was told because it would have been done before. I did not belong in that world. When I worked in the food movement, I became very successful educating consumers about factory farming, healthy food, and the such. But I never felt like I belonged there either. People were so serious in the nonprofit world. It was like they didn't know that you could laugh and have fun while trying to save the planet. I did therapy for decades and just about every type of self-help imaginable. And it helped me some, but it didn't help enough. I always felt disconnected and like I didn't fit in. And I always knew I was more than I was able to express or show others. It's such a frustrating experience. My past and things that had happened to me were like chains that kept me from being me. After the worst menopause in the world that seriously lasted at least 10 years, I think like more like 15, my life and career completely blew up. And I had the realization I was in the final chapter of my life. I was in my 50s at the time. I crashed and burned. I won't go into details in this video, but a lot of people did a lot of unprofessional and abusive things to me, and I spent years blaming them. I blamed the psychopath who stole my job, the misogynist who ripped away opportunities and success I had, and on and on. It's taken literally years for me to understand that it wasn't the other people. They weren't the problem. Yes, there were people who did bad things to me, and that's their karma to deal with. What took years for me to understand was that I wasn't living the life I was meant to live. I wasn't living the life I had wanted. I was trying to force myself into a mold I simply didn't fit in and never had. I was trying to live someone else's life that was forced upon me when I was younger, which is much more common than people might realize. And it took the universe ripping it all apart for me to finally understand. I've listened to podcasts and read about people who've come back after losing everything, but what I've never heard is how hard and how long it can take to find your footing again. And that's not a good or a bad thing. It's a reality. At least it was for me. This all started in earnest when a grant I'd had for a couple decades ended and the perimenopause monster was eating me alive. That was 10 years ago. I had enough money and did some consulting work to keep my nonprofit going for 5 more years. But during that time, I was lost and I felt I had no direction. I was stuck. In 2020, COVID was on all of us and I couldn't keep going the way I'd been. I made the decision to move. So at the end of the year, I moved to Santa Fe, having only spent one night on a road trip a few decades ago here and not knowing anyone. Like I did not know a soul in this town. So as an aside, I found out after I moved here that it's not uncommon for women in midlife to end up here and they don't know why. They find out they need to heal from something. And after they do, The land will keep them or the land will spit them out into their next adventure. I've been here 5 years. I'm interested to see what happens. I arrived battered and broken, but I knew the minute my car crossed into New Mexico that I was where I was meant to be. I spent the next year trying to get funding for my nonprofit and keep it going, but I finally realized that I was done with not just my organization, but with the food movement itself. So, as I was turning 60 years old, I closed that chapter of my life. And it was hard. My ego was totally wrapped up in my work, and it was my sense of self worth and purpose. The rug had been pulled out from under me, and I had nothing to hold on to for at least 6 months. Things have gotten much better since then, much better. But I'm still going through my transformation, and I'm now about 5 years into serious healing and rebuilding my life. Everything I just talked about here made me realize I had to relearn how to live, and this time how to live my life. So, if you're in a similar situation, please subscribe and join me each week. Also, here are a few things I wish someone had told me. 1, change takes time, so be patient with yourself. I was burnout, lost, and my nervous system was a mess. I'm so embarrassed to say this, but it turns out in my Santa Fe apartment, I can look out the window that I do my writing at and see mountains. My neighbor has a big truck. It's super common here, but it would block most of my view if he was parked in front of my window. And I actually asked him not to park there because I would get so freaked out and angry if I didn't have my view. I know. Oh, I was such a mess. He and his partner are good friends now, and I feel so horrible I did that, but that's how out of whack my system was. I kept trying to force myself into my new life by writing and trying to figure out a business, but I didn't see how broken I was. So if you've lost something or you're going through a change, be patient with yourself. You can only do so much each day. The most important thing you can do is take care of your health and rest as much as you can. Second, you are not a failure. Whatever happened to you, whatever loss you're going through, you have not failed. We need to let go of things in order to step into our next phase, and we can't rush it. You might need to mourn, heal, take time to be with yourself. I was devastated and humiliated by what happened to me, and it has taken years for me to see that it wasn't me and it wasn't even the other people. There's no fault and no wrong. You're simply moving into a new phase, and change is hard for everyone. If you find that getting back up seems insurmountable, find someone to talk with about it, like a therapist or a close friend. Third, success is not what we usually think it is. I lived in New York City. I had amazing experiences. I met interesting people all the time. And even though I wasn't rich, I was able to travel, eat at amazing and expensive restaurants, and hang out with very successful people. I had a life that was always go, go, go. But that's not success. Success is getting out of bed when you have no energy. It's putting one foot in front of the other. It's looking at yourself in the mirror and finding something you like about yourself. Money and power are an illusion we're brainwashed into thinking we have to have more and more of. And I know that's a hard one because we need money to survive. We need a certain amount of money, yes, but like, I don't know, do you want to be one of those billionaires? I certainly don't. And it doesn't bring happiness. I watched a bunch of documentaries yesterday about lottery winners, and they said that money didn't change their lives. Well, no, they said money did change their lives, but not for the better. They lost a lot of friends, and people were constantly wanting money from them, so they never knew who to trust. The one couple who seemed happy with their winnings, they gave most of it away, and they do good with it. So if you go from 5-star living to a moderate income, that has nothing to do with success or failure. Keeping a smile on your face and being kind to others when everything feels like it's falling down around you, that's success. And that's not a platitude. I really mean that. And lastly, keep the faith. things will work out. I would have panic attacks, worrying that I'd end up alone and homeless. And all that did was make my healing take longer. Be as gentle as you can with yourself. If you need to get a job while you figure things out, women I've seen on YouTube who are starting over are doing things like driving for Uber or Uber Eats or some delivery service, doing administrative temp work online, doing checkout in a local store, or even starting a YouTube channel. I know someone here in Santa Fe. She started driving for Uber and she loves it. She can choose her hours and when she works, like during daylight hours only. And even though she's not going to get rich off it, she's paying her bills, and that stress is now off her. I would go so far as to say that a job like that, something where you don't have to think too hard, might help with healing. And it might take a little financial stress off of you. Well, I know it'll take a little financial stress off of you. So if you're wondering about me, I had saved some money for quite a while because I thought I could buy a place one day in New York City, which I'm glad I thought I could, but I think my life would have expired before I had enough for a down payment. I mean, the HOAs there, like your monthly, the monthly whatever that you have to pay, the maintenance, whatever. I think it could be $5,000-$10,000. Anyway, I had money saved, so I made this terrifying decision to spend it on myself and on my rent so I could pursue what I'd always wanted to do, which is write fiction. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat this. It was hard. It was a hard decision, but there gets a point in your life, I just had a good friend from high school died. People are starting to die. I mean, I'm 64 and I've never felt better. I don't think I've ever been healthier. Like my mindset has never been better. So now's the time. So like I mentioned, I'm still going through my personal transformation, but I took the scariest leap of my life and went on what I call a sabbatical about 3 years ago. And that was to write books. I've wanted to do this since I was 15, and I finally feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to do. I'm not selling many books yet, but I would rather live in my car and write books than be on my deathbed wishing I had tried. And I really do mean that. That to me is success. So thank you for being here. I hope to see you again next time. Until then, be joyfully you. Thank you.